Some stories begin with a crime, others begin with a mystery, and a few begin with something much quieter. Routine. The kind of ordinary morning that feels so predictable you barely notice it happening. No warning, no drama. Just another day starting exactly the way every other day has. For Tina Hines, mornings followed a pattern she had kept for years. She woke up early, put on her running shoes, stepped outside while the world was still quiet. Running wasn't just exercise for her. It was part of her identity. Some people drink coffee to wake up. Tina ran. Same result, just with significantly more sweating. She was disciplined about it too. The kind of person who actually sticks to a routine long after everyone else has abandoned their New Year's resolutions. Her husband Brian had grown used to it. Morning jogs was simply part of life in their household. Tina would head out, complete her route, and come home ready to start the day. And for years, that routine never changed. Until February 2018. That morning looked completely normal at first. Tina tied her shoes. She stepped outside. She started her run. Nothing about that moment hinted at what was about to happen. But somewhere along her route, something inside her body went catastrophically wrong. Without warning, Tina collapsed. There was no scream, no warning signs, no dramatic moment where someone clutches their chest and announces something is terribly wrong. Real life rarely works that way. 1 second she was running, the next second she was on the ground, completely unresponsive. Her heart had suddenly entered a condition known as ventricular fibrillation. It sounds technical, but the basic idea is terrifyingly simple. The heart stops pumping properly. Instead of beating in a steady rhythm, it begins to quiver chaotically. Blood stops circulating the way it should. Oxygen stops reaching the brain. When that happens, every second matters. When Brian found her, the scene made no sense. Tina wasn't moving. She wasn't breathing normally. He checked for a pulse. Nothing. Panic arrived immediately. Anyone who has ever faced a true emergency knows the feeling. Your brain tries to process what's happening, while your body floods with adrenaline. Brian dropped to his knees and began CPR. Chest compressions, over and over again. CPR is exhausting. It looks simple when you see it on television, but in real life it takes enormous effort. Each compression pushes down on the chest to manually circulate blood. Brian kept going. Again, and again, and again. He didn't stop. He couldn't stop, because stopping would mean giving up. Paramedics eventually arrived and took over. They loaded Tina into the ambulance and rushed her to the hospital. All the way there, emergency responders continued trying to restart her heart. Inside the emergency room, the situation became even more intense. Doctors immediately began advanced life-saving procedures. They shocked her heart with a defibrillator. They administered medications designed to restore a normal rhythm. They followed every protocol modern medicine has developed for cardiac arrest. But Tina's heart refused to stabilize. Minutes passed. Then more minutes. For the medical team, the situation was becoming grim. When a person remains in cardiac arrest for an extended period, survival becomes increasingly unlikely. Even if the heart restarts, the brain may have already suffered irreversible damage. After more than 20 minutes of unsuccessful efforts, a doctor walked toward Brian. Doctors don't like having this conversation. It's one of the hardest parts of the job, but sometimes they have no choice. The doctor looked at him and said the words no one ever wants to hear. "I'm sorry. She's gone." Brian collapsed. He cried. He begged them to keep trying. He blamed himself for not doing more, even though he had already done everything a person could possibly do. To the medical team, Tina Hines was clinically dead. Her heart had not sustained a stable rhythm. Her body had gone too long without effective circulation. They had reached the point where medicine had nothing left to offer. And then something happened that nobody expected. Approximately 27 minutes after Tina collapsed, her heart suddenly returned to a viable rhythm. Not slowly, not gradually, suddenly. The monitors changed. Nurses rushed back toward the bed. Doctors stared at the screens, trying to process what they were seeing. Brian looked up in confusion. He had just been told his wife was gone. But now something was happening. Tina's eyes opened. She was alive, but she was also terrified. A breathing tube had been placed in her throat, which meant she couldn't speak. She tried to form words, but nothing came out. Her eyes were wide, her movements were urgent. She kept trying to communicate something. Over and over again, she mouthed the same word. Paper. Brian leaned close, trying to understand. Again, she mouthed it. Paper. A nurse handed Brian a pen and a small pad. He placed them in Tina's hand. Her grip was extremely weak. Writing took enormous effort. Slowly, very slowly, she forced the pen across the page. The letters were uneven. Her hand shook. But eventually, she finished. Brian looked down at what she had written, and his expression changed instantly. His face lost color. He covered his mouth. The paper slipped from his hands. Written in shaky letters were 3 words. It's real. Not a sentence, not an explanation, just a statement. Doctors asked what she meant. Tina didn't answer. Even when she eventually recovered enough to speak, she remained careful about what she said. Over the next several days, she slowly stabilized in intensive care. And somehow, against all expectations, she showed no severe brain damage. From a medical perspective, that alone was extraordinary. But the real mystery came from what Tina described experiencing during those 27 minutes. When she was finally able to speak clearly, she explained that she had been fully aware while her heart was stopped. She insisted she wasn't dreaming. She said she wasn't hallucinating. According to Tina, she felt herself separate from her body. She described seeing the room from above, watching doctors and nurses working around her, which would be impressive under normal circumstances, except she technically didn't have a working brain circulation at the time. After that, she said something else happened. She felt herself pulled somewhere she struggled to describe. She didn't label it heaven. She didn't claim to see angels or gates or clouds. Instead, she described it as a place that felt vast, overwhelming, peaceful, real in a way she said was impossible to mistake. She said she felt a sense of calm that was stronger than anything she had experienced in life. And somehow she understood, without anyone speaking, that it wasn't her time to stay there. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it ended. She was back in her body, back in the hospital, back in pain. Doctors later confirmed that Tina had experienced a rare and sudden cardiac event. In many cases like this, the cause can be difficult to determine. Why her heart stopped remains unclear. Why it restarted after such a long period is even harder to explain. Cases like Tina's are extremely rare. But survival alone wasn't the only thing that changed. Tina often says the experience altered her perspective on life. Her priorities shifted. The things she used to worry about suddenly seemed smaller. Arguments didn't matter as much. Daily frustrations felt less important. When you've technically been dead for almost half an hour, traffic jams tend to lose their emotional power. More importantly, the message she wrote in those first moments after waking up never changed. Not, "I saw something," not, "I'm alive." Just 3 simple words. It's real. Even years later, Tina stands by that statement. She believes what she experienced during those 27 minutes was real, whatever it was. And that's what makes this story so fascinating. Because science can explain many parts of what happened. Cardiac arrest, emergency resuscitation, rare survival. But the experience Tina describes sits in a space that science is still trying to understand. Some people call it a near-death experience. Others believe it's the brain reacting to trauma. And some believe it might be something else entirely. Something we simply don't have the tools to explain yet. Whatever the explanation is, Tina Hines came back from a moment when medicine believed she was gone. And the first thing she did was write a message. 3 words that still leave people wondering what she really saw. It's real. And sometimes the most mysterious stories are the ones where someone returns to tell them.
That's another case closed here in the Rotten Swamp. The truth always surfaces, no matter how deep it's buried. If you're hungry for more dark mysteries, hit subscribe and ring that bell. Until next time, keep your doors locked and your secrets buried deeper than mine. This is Rotten Swamp, where justice never rots.